this whole situation as, well, I wanted to start from the point of like thinking about a time when your child was the most alive, the most whole, like their best self that they possibly can be, that you know them to be. And what is that moment and all of the particulars of that moment? And to think about that moment and what made that possible. And to wonder just a little bit about what was it about you that made it possible for you to notice that about your child, that was what was going on with your child. And I thought if we started by thinking about that most amazing individual person that is this one child, it might help us think about the necessary or the most supportive things that we can do as they're at home right now. So, because it's not fine, we're gonna get through the schoolwork, but it's really about this full human being who we now get to be with for so many more hours a day. And what might be the particulars that this specific child would benefit from that would help the child be their best self and would help the child learn to see what helps them be their best self, right? Because it's not just about us setting up the situation, but it's also about their self-knowledge for how they can, how their internal self operates. So that was the starting point of the conversation. I wonder what that makes you think about when you hear that as a starting point for thinking about being at home.
Yeah. Well, it gives me three thoughts, or there were three things that were kind of running through my mind with that prompt. One of which was that the question or the element of what is it about what I was doing or where I was in the mix. I would say that the best examples I can think of are times where I wasn't distracted, which is a challenge in this moment, but where I was, really present and in it. We were in an experience together. Each of my kids has obviously different moments that come to mind when I think of that best self version. But I would say that for both of them, it's a form of, for my little one especially, I can think of moments where she was integral, where she was important to what we were doing, right? Whether it was helping cook dinner or something like that, and that she felt needed and important. For my older one, I would say it's more that she had the chance to do a creative exploration, some kind of project that she was doing or something that she could just immerse in. So, I mean, that's helpful to me also to think about those as examples, and to think about, I guess, in a way that those are maybe more conducive to their natural selves than I guess I would call it the schedule that right now is being suggested to us by, at least for my older one, by the school, right? Which is, I think, a grind, and I think a little bit hard.
Yeah. Yes. Right. What might allow your child to thrive, and through that to have the entire family system be just a little more calm, a little more settled, a little more agency for everybody, a little more choice around independence and interdependence. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and just share my screen. Let's see if we can make this happen. Great. Here we go. And I won't spend a long time, but just to get a sense of what some of these, right. So if we think of these four pieces, but we apply that initial question about what supports the child. You know, who is this child inside of the routines, the way that they access life? You know, are they very tactile? Are they very inside their own brain? Do they really like to see things? Do they really like to hear things, right? All of those matter.
Yeah.
What will your family celebration be? And what about your language? What about our language as parents in the whole system? So with routines, I was thinking about how, sure, it's about setting up the routine, but the child comes before the clock, right? So just because you're supposed to be doing math at 9:30 doesn't mean you have to be doing math at 9:30 because you weren't done with language arts, right? You weren't done with reading and you were snuggled up on the couch, and that's what was going on. So no matter what the time is, it's about the child. And it's about taking breaks from whatever the routine is. We all need those breaks and not to have the exact same routine every day. So the fact that you were talking about, you know, let's make a choice every day. That's really supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. And the breaks have definitely been great. We have, I mean, one of the ones that the school recommended was this website called Go Noodle. I don't know if you've, it's amazing. It's honestly fantastic because even though, again, it's still looking at a screen, it's, my kids are like breaking a sweat, dancing, watching these fun videos. And so that, you know, that's not the only break they've been taking, but they've actually seen that as a treat, which is a nice one that they can access that. And yeah, and I think my thoughts about breaks also, I'm sensitive to not having too many snack breaks because I think that's another default that is an easy one, but to find other ways to do breaks.
Yeah, very much. Your talk about breaks was also right on what I was thinking about the modalities. I was talking a little bit earlier about modalities, but these movement breaks and ways that you can take movement breaks as a family, ways that you can have your kinesthetic children build a movement break for everybody else, and then have lead everybody in that kind of break.
Fun. Yeah.
To go to do it again differently. Sometimes the schoolwork is presented as like to the children as like do it and then you'll be done. But one of the wonderful things about being able to, oh, hello, hi.
Thank you, Pearl.
One of the wonderful things about being able to do it at home and not be time bound is to take that science or whatever and get to choose a different way of doing it. So drawing a comic about how the whatever system works, and finding random objects around the house and building a sculpture to show how things work, but just being able to choose a different modality. Is this your 4-year-old? I can't tell who this is. Okay, hi.
It is, and I think that maybe we have also Annie Drazen maybe with us. Is that right, Annie? Possibly. I see an iPad that is joined, and I think that's who it is.
Terrific. I was thinking about number 4. I was thinking about 4-year-olds, and so sometimes something that can help is setting up specific areas. So like even putting out the magnet tiles in a very specific way that morning, and putting an unusual object in the middle of the magnet tiles. We call it, in Reggio terms, that's a provocation. And so just putting something new out, or using the materials in an unusual way or in a different way, or finding a mirror and putting it nearby for whatever, and just seeing what happens. It's like, just by setting up your 4-year-old's life in a slightly different way will change her I don't know, she'll have more to discover, and it's completely normal for her to sort of go from thing to thing.
I love that idea. I also think it would be so cool for her to like wake up with a surprise in a way. You know, I never, she doesn't ever see us play with her toys. I mean, we don't play with her toys, but like that kind of idea would probably be really special for her to see something differently.
Yeah. There's something actually really powerful for all ages of being next to a master while the master is doing the thing. So like whether you're a master at drawing or not, like sitting down to draw together, or like folding a piece of paper in half and drawing half of a picture, even if it's like completely unrecognizable, then passing it around the table. Um, uh, yeah. I put that in for somebody who wanted to take a screenshot and just like see, like, if I wanted to do something again, what are some of my options of how I can do it again?
This is awesome.
I need to give credit to Torah Ora.
Oh, yeah.
I think the book called Being Torah. I think it's from Being Torah. Okay.
Wow.
3 awesome questions to ask at the end of the day, to close things up, to feel great about your day. Carry the goodness into the nighttime and into the next morning.
I like these questions also because, you know, usually on a regular day, we're not with them much because we're at work. So in the evening, the kind of conversation and questions that we usually ask them are much more about what happened today and what you do. Well, now we're like really on top of each other. So we definitely know what they did or what their day felt like to a certain extent. So it's nice to have questions for reflection rather than questions for reporting, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a nice, anyways, even if we don't see them during the day, it's still, these are great questions.
That's great. Good. The last thing that I wanted to explore together was really about the power of the language that we use. That this, taking maybe all 3 of these together, that when we have done, I don't know, when we're able to at least pretend to be relaxed, right? That's how they'll respond to us. And conveying that we believe in the child's power of their desire to make good choices, in their capacity to learn, however frustrating it is for us, it all makes such a difference.
You know, I think at least for our household, in general, the staying calm has been pretty, like we've been able to basically stay calm, except for, and this is something that I just want to name and curious if you have any thoughts about it, except for the challenge around dealing with the IT issues. And I know it sounds like a weird thing to say, but
No.
it's been particularly taxing as a parent to be dealing with these online systems for school that we've never dealt with before. And I understand it's also taxing for the teachers. And I think that's like the place that's caused the most. I feel my body stress and tense when I'm in those transitions. Panina this morning was on another meeting with me where I had to interrupt it myself, you know, step away 3 times to deal with the IT issues that my kids, who, you know, I'm an IT professional now, except I have no skill set in it.
Yeah.
But I wonder, you know, I'm curious, Rebecca, if you have any thoughts or how to deal with the fact that there are things that even in the best intentions are hard to fake it till you make it, in the sense of the level of stress and frustration around something like that, for example, where this is new. I mean, I'm trying to name that for the girls. Mostly I've just been trying to say, like, this is really new for us, like we're all trying to work this out. But I don't know if there are some things that would be that you would advise.
Yeah, well, it sounds like your instincts are just spot on that. That we get activated, right? We all get activated by different things. And yeah, the idea that like you're on a work call and all of a sudden you've got to like 3 times, right? Yes, yes. Yeah. So I think there's separate issues. Like one is like the values that you carry or that your family carries towards the schoolwork, right? Is there what particulars are you holding around how that schoolwork has to be done? And what values might you promote? And what other ones are you okay saying, like, you know what, that's just not what I think my child needs to learn or how they need to be learning, because that's not, yep. And so she's going to do the assignment this way. And like giving yourself permission to approach her IT that way. And then the other thing you were talking about is like talking with the children about it, right? Like the extent to which afterwards you name. I was so frustrated, and it wasn't you. I was so frustrated with the fact that it didn't work, and I really wanted to help you at the same time, and I was supposed to be talking to this other person at work, but I really wanted to be with you, and it was hard for me to figure out how I couldn't do both at the same time. And it made me sad that I couldn't do both at the same time, because I saw that you really needed my help right at that moment.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. I like that.
And more, the children are going to understand that conflict
Mm-hmm.
and pick up on how we talk about it after we have those big feelings.
Mm-hmm. That's really valuable. I'll ask you a few other questions, but also I don't know if there are other slides that you wanted to.
That's the last one.
Okay. So I guess, a few other things that I was curious about, and curious if you have thoughts about, both for myself and also for others that might listen to this replay. One is actually starting to think towards the weekend and trying to think about how to distinguish between the weekday and the weekend when in many ways we're at home. It's one long week with some form of distinctiveness, but not enough. Even Shabbat, for example, is different than it might be if we could go out and be with people or go to shul. So I wonder if that's something that there are, ways to kind of maybe create ritual or mark. I mean, again, Shabbos is a great ritual, but just anything you can think about that might help families to move between the weekday and weekend when they're at home for this length of time.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different dimensions that we could think about, and differentiating on some of them, and making choices as a family about, what do we love, and what do we love to do together. So it might be, when I think about dimensions that we can differentiate on, it is things like the food we eat and the games that we play together in the house, and when we play those games, and who gets to make the schedule for the day, the choices that we make as parents about when we might not be working on the weekends, and how we catch or make time for one-on-one time with people in the family. And I mean every single person in the family, and how we get that alone time. And I wonder, for children who are old enough to be able to name some of the things that they just love to do with parents, that can be a really special time for a child to get to choose what they want to do. And if they can't name, then it's also fine to suggest to say, last time we did this, it felt really great together. You want to do that again?
I love that. Those are great thoughts. And I think also would allow us to give the kids more control over certain aspects of the weekend than maybe they have for the weekdays right now. Another thing that I was wondering if you had thoughts about, and this in many ways, I guess, also connects to the age demographic of your own children who are in middle school, or for people who have high school age children, the craving of the social, which also I will say for elementary school is also a challenge. And any, I guess I'd say any thoughts you have about how to help encourage that, but also how to help ensure that it's boundaried as well, in a certain sense that it's, a lot of the online elements that maybe older students are also navigating now are amplified. Again, I don't expect it to be an expertise, but curious if you had some thoughts or yourself going through it and have some ideas.
One of the things that we've seen help our children a lot, again, I have an 11 and a 13-year-old, is getting one-on-one or two, like small groups of friends together, because a lot of the social platforms are just simply ways to put out, the fake version of yourself or whatever cool thing you need to put online. So the real connections for my children, at least, are happening through the the face-to-face that they get just with a single friend. I think those have been helpful. I think the other thing, at least in my family, that's been really helpful is to get offline. That in some ways there's an exhaustion about everybody wanting to talk and everybody wanting to stay in touch. And to the extent that we can coordinate those offline times with other parents, that's really helpful too, for a friend group to say, like, nobody's online at this certain time.
That's a fantastic point. I know there's an overcorrection right now that's happening. I feel on my own personal level of just lots of people checking in on each other. It's a beautiful thing, but it is another form of giving of yourself and draining externally that you might also need to keep contained. And so I love the idea that, especially for the FOMO kids, the fear of missing out, that they might feel relief to know that their peers are going to stay offline for a certain period of time too, or things like that. Yeah. Well, I loved this. You're amazing as always, and this has just been awesome for me. I just took a ton of notes. I really think it'll be great for the folks who'll be able to watch the edited version of this. I think it's gonna be exactly the kind of bite-sized shot in the arm in a good way that people probably are seeking right now, where there's so much coming at families. I also just love the kind of compassion that you have as an educator and as a parent. And I think the self-compassion is the thing that we need a lot of right now. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's so wonderful to be able to connect directly with you. And then I can't wait to see too. I'm hopeful that these ideas are helpful to other parents too.
Yeah, I think they will be. And we'll post these as well on the parenting listserv, as well as we'll be sending something out to the community